Well, hey, welcome to Figure It Out. McFarlane Toys has just put out the full line of action figures from the 2009 movie Avatar. So we're going to pull them out of the box and take a look. So before we dive into these action figures, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the negative things I've been seeing online about this particular toy line, and I don't know, maybe do a little editorial on my thoughts and feelings. So a couple things have been coming out negative, as in, why are we doing Avatar figures when that movie is 13 years old? And I think that's kind of silly because we have figures from movies from the 80s and even earlier than that. I mean, Texas Chainsaw and RoboCop and Friday the 13th. We've got all kinds of Predator and Alien figures that have come out in recent days. To have Avatar figures, it's fine. I mean, it's the same as some of the ones that have come out. I've heard people say, well, this is just a cash grab by Todd McFarlane because the new Avatar movie is coming out. Yeah, I mean, he's a smart businessman, and if he wants to do some action figures on a highly successful movie from before and lead that into some additional figures for this movie coming out, I mean, why would you fault him for that? Why would that be a negative? I have no idea. I've heard people say, well, Avatar was a stupid movie to begin with and nobody went to see it. And I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. Avatar was the highest grossing film ever in history. And when you factor in inflation, it comes in second just behind Gone with the Wind. I mean, it made almost $3 billion. So let's not say that Avatar was a dumb film and nobody cares about it. That's not even true. I think Avatar kind of went the way of like Taylor Swift or Nickelback. You know, they became so popular that they became unpopular to like them, if that makes sense. I don't listen to either, but I do know for a fact that both have been crazy successful, but yet you have a hard time finding someone that will tell you they like either one of them. And I think Avatar fell into that so many people liked this movie and so many people went to it that people started bashing on it and saying, well, maybe it's uncool to like this film. In order to really look at these action figures, I went ahead and watched the film. I watched it yesterday, and I really wondered, am I missing something? Maybe it doesn't hold up. Maybe it's not as good as I remember. Honestly, my honest opinion, it was actually better than I remembered it to be. The CGI still holds up, didn't take away from the film at all, in my opinion, and I thought it was a decent story. I was engaged the whole time. I thought it was great. It's not my favorite movie ever, but it's a good movie. In fact, that movie was so successful that there were even stories when it came out of people battling depression because they couldn't go live on Pandora. And okay, that's taking it too far. I get you there. I like the movie. I think it's a good movie, and I'm anxious to pull these out of the box. So we have the Avatar figure of Jake Sully. We have Neytiri, who is played by Zoe Saldana, and just taking a look at these figures, I mean, there's some really cool things about these figures. One, the face sculpts are really well done, so they did a great job on making them look, I mean, exactly like they looked in the movie. And so I thought that they did an excellent job with those. If you want to see, we can get a little bit of him here. I mean, they did a really great job on the faces. We'll see about her as well. So just the face sculpts, they did a great job on those and what those look like from the movie. They do come with some accessories. They come with some additional hands that can sort of simulate them drawing back the bow, although the bows and arrows that they have are stuck together, so there's no real way of posing these guys with anything other than carrying their bows. There's no way of really demonstrating that they can draw them back. It doesn't work like that. So that's a little disappointing. It would be nice if they had a separate arrow and, but the bow doesn't have a string, and I'm sure that it became problematic when they were trying to do something like that. They also come with a knife, which is true to the movie. These figures are really pretty cool. There's a lot of, a movement to them. They have, the double joints on the arms and legs, so you can get a lot of movement out of them. The The wrists are not ball joints, they're just hinge and swivel joints, and so that's pretty decent. The sculpts on these and the texture, I mean, they have a good feel to them. They don't feel like cheap plastic. They actually feel pretty great. I mean, these are actually quite cool. I think having just seen the movie and seeing what we're being presented with when it comes to these action figures, I think McFarlane's done a pretty good job. They do come with a tail, and that tail does swivel. I would have appreciated maybe a wire in the tail, so it is just soft plastic. They've got great range of motion with their arms, their legs. So as far as articulation and just the feel of these sculpts, they're actually pretty good. So that's Jake and Neytiri. I think they've done a really pretty phenomenal job with these guys, and we're gonna be able to put them in some cool poses, and I already have some thoughts on dioramas for these, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. Well, the real surprise of the action figure bunch has to be this much smaller figure of Colonel Miles Quaritch, and played by Stephen Lang, and he was absolutely phenomenal in this movie as being a bad guy, but this figure is significantly smaller, and one of the things that I really appreciate about what they did with these action figures was they really tried to save the scale. And so just putting our Jake Sully in his avatar form next to Colonel Miles here, you can see that they're really trying to make, I mean, these guys in the movie are 10 to 12 feet tall, and so you can see if this was a 6 foot tall guy, he is twice his, Sully is twice his size, and so I think that's actually phenomenal. Boy, I'm telling you, another thing about this is the amount of articulation they put in this little guy. Like I would have expected this just to be, you know, I mean, to be static as far as the arms are concerned. It has every bit the articulation that the big figures have. It's crazy. He has still the double knee joints, and he's got double elbow joints. He's got this butterfly joint on the shoulder. He has the toe joint, and you know, I mean, everything. From ankles, you could pose this guy any way you wanted. The only movement restriction he has is that he comes with this holster, and it keeps you from really pushing this leg out. Like, this leg doesn't go as far out as the other. And even as small as this is, I mean, his face sculpt is actually quite good as well. I mean, he really does look like Stephen Lang. And so they did a great job with the faces of these figures and all the articulation points, all the details. They did an excellent job on the pants, all the detail work in that, as well as the paint job. This guy comes with more accessories than anybody else. He comes with 3 additional hands, one where he can hold his coffee mug, one that's a fist, one that's a pointing finger. He does come with a coffee mug, and so if you watch the movie and he's, you know, in the gunships, he's just drinking his coffee very casually as they're going to invade. He comes with a second head, which has a rebreather mask, which they couldn't breathe the air of, you know, the planet, and so they had to have these masks on. So if you want to pose him outside, you can pose him outside. So that's pretty cool. He comes with 2 guns, and the guns both come with muzzle flash, and so you can put him in any kind of action scene you want. I think this is really neat. They did a great job of adding to this figure, and maybe to have the same price point of something this small, not as much plastic and all that, they added these additional pieces, but I think it's brilliant. I think it's great. Well, now let's take a look at what I believe is the real treasure in this collection, and that is all the different, I guess you call them rides, that each of these action figures has. Every one that I just showed you has a vehicle or something that they can ride on, and we're going to take a look first at these. These are the Banshees that the Na'vi ride on, and these things are massive. They are so big, and I'm going to show you both at the same time because they kind of are the same. They do the same thing. Their paint is a little bit varied, a little bit different color variations on the paint, and they have different head sculpts. This is Neytiri's, and this particular Banshee has a closed mouth. This is Jake's Banshee, and its head sculpt has this open, screaming, and I'm telling you, this Banshee is really cool looking with this open mouth. You know, the only articulation they don't have is they don't have the hinged jaw where you can open and close the mouths. But other than that, I mean, there are zero complaints on these. These are really, really cool. I cannot get over how many places that these things can move and bend. I mean, you can just put them in any kind of, I guess, flight pattern that you want. It is crazy how articulated these are. Everything from the claws and the tail. This tail, unlike the one we saw before, it does have a wire in it, and so you can be a little more expressive with this as you're putting these into some kind of a flight pattern. They have saddles on them, just like what you would see in the movie. They have these saddles. They have, I don't know what you'd call these on them, kind of an antenna thing, but this is where, you know, the characters would plug in their braids, and so you can actually plug the braids in there. There's a holster for the their bow on here. I cannot wait. I mean, the figures are great, don't get me wrong. The action figures are great, but this is where it all comes out, and this is where it's just exceptional. And so if I get my man Jake on here, let's go ahead and put him in a ride. All right, we got him on there, and I'm telling you, this is the way to go. If we're gonna pose this guy, let's pose him on his mount, because that is insanely cool. Each of the Banshees does come with a stand. It's got this little ball on the end, and there is a socket to put that ball on right here. I would suggest applying a little heat because it's really hard to force this thing on there. I'm sure you've also heard by now that McFarlane has taken this to a whole nother level because he has painted these action figures with black light paint. So I bought myself a little black light flashlight. So if you've seen the movie, you know that when it's nighttime on Pandora, that the whole place just lights up like a psychedelic poster from the 70s. And so McFarlane has put this paint, the same paint, on these figures, and when you throw a black light on them, now my camera's kind of washing it out a little bit, but when you throw the black light on them, it, I mean, they glow, and they glow really well. It's really cool. So let's see if I can get the right distance with this light to get a feel for it. There you go. All right, the last vehicle I want to show you is what is called the Amp Suit, and this actually may be my favorite of all. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Banshees are absolutely fantastic. They're great, but the detail work and what they did on this is really exceptional. The Amp Suit does have a lot of details to it. This canopy does open, and I've already stuck Colonel Miles in there, so you can see him there. I mean, everything from, it's got this little windshield wiper on there to it seems like they spent a lot of time looking at the details, and it's pretty stable. As heavy as it is up top, I'm having no problems at all finding balance points for this to get this thing posed. It does come with this extra open hand. It comes with a knife that was a big part of the movie, and then it comes with this chain gun, and it's got this ammo belt that's coming off of that, which actually has a place in the back of this to attach it, so a little feed point, so you can have this in hand. And here's my only thought about this, which I would caution anybody. It does seem a little delicate in some connection points, especially here at the shoulders. And so what's cool about it is, just like in the movie, these arms, let me straighten this out, these arms ride around on this track on the top. So there's a track up here, and these arms will ride around on that, and they do a really good job of moving around on that. But this point right here feels like a little delicate, like as I'm trying to move the arms and put it into poses, I'm concerned that this can be, I guess, a breaking point, and of course you don't want that. But so it's just a matter of really hanging on to it and putting the arms in place, because you just don't want to snap it off at these points. And also right here on the legs where it attaches. Now this is really accurate to the film, and this is what this thing looked like, but It's got these very small attachment points right here, and on the shoulders, see if we can get a good angle of that, up here on this track. And so a little bit of delicate right there, a little bit of delicate there, and so you're just gonna have to really hang on to it before you move it around. But I mean, it actually moves. I mean, the legs can splay out some, come in. So there's like this ball joint that's right there that's actually pretty cool. It's hinged at the knees. You can really get it moving whatever direction you want. I mean, I think this is insane. This thing is really cool. And you know, if you have other, I just noticed it does have the sheath for the knife, which that was 100% part of the movie. So we'll go ahead and sheath that knife there. That's pretty cool. But just kind of detail work, the paint job is actually, it's better on the front than it is the back, but they've done a good job of putting some, you know, paint elements on there, some gradient on there. I think they've done really well with this. Just the detail work on this. So I just figured out what this open hand is for. This is what goes up underneath the gun. So when I replace this one, it's going to hold the gun up like so. So we're going to try to put the gun on here in a minute, and let's get everything posed and let's see what everything looks like. Well, all right, thanks for watching. I mean, just look at these things. They are so exceptional, and I think definitely something that if you are a collector, you will enjoy posing these and putting them in dioramas. I'm already thinking about, I've never done a black light diorama. I think that would be so cool to do a night scene, an Avatar night scene, and put a black light over it. Anyway, well, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the video, then give it a like. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, then please subscribe to the channel. We got a lot more coming up, so we'll see you next time on Figure It Out. So I was messing around with the black light and was shining it on my other figures. And when I hit my Spawn action figures with the black light, their eyes glow and it looks amazing.